Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to
Well,
Left and Correct,
the
the
only
podcast
podcast.
where both of us are left, but only one of us is correct on a
We
two
never
second
get it right.
delay.
We never get it right.
Well,
We
it's
never get it
because,
right.
in the age of Corona over Zoom, we do what we can. We do what we can. We're not sure if it's like, are you hesitating? Is this a delay? We don't know, but we go with the flow because
We
that's
go
all
with the
you can
flow.
do.
That's all you can do. Flow,
Yeah.
flow every day. What's going on with you? What's going on with the news?
Oh, well, today was my last day at the ballet
Hmm.
for a furlough that is going to starting tomorrow, which we knew about, and it's pretty inevitable that it was going to happen, right? I mean, if you can't perform the Nutcracker, there goes all of your money, right? Like that's particularly when a show like the Nutcracker, people from all over the country, all over the world come to New York City. It's a big thing. That's what they do. And if you can't come here for various reasons, and also, do we really want people from hotspots to come here? It's all for the best. Um, so we'll see. We'll see.
When they crack those nuts, they're full of money.
That's true. That is actually true because the Nutcracker is a Russian story. So and they love money over there with these oligarchs.
Sure, yeah. I mean, who doesn't love
That
money?
right.
Um,
That was the real. Tchaikovsky, like all the different candies, actually, because you need money to buy the candy. And if you rearrange the words of Drosselmeyer, you get money.
Oh gosh, it's so weird. I that was my first touring job was with that ballet, a ballet company doing the Nutcracker. When you're a dancer, that's big money.
Yeah. When I was in college, there was a production of the Nutcracker that used our theater space, and I got to make with the battle of the Nutcrackers and the soldiers versus the mice and the rats. I got to make the powder that exploded out of the cannon. It was
Ooh.
the it was the most exciting thing I've ever done. I'm like, I'm making explosives. Like, so like, I'm Ted Kaczynski. That's what
Ah,
I did. Ah!
Ted Kaczynski. Uh,
Remember Ted?
I mean, it was very fun. It's the most money at that time that I had made in my life touring with this little ballet company, and I joined them like in the middle of their tour, and I had to, which is not a totally uncommon thing. I had to learn the show by watching it, so I got to watch it
Oh,
like two or three times, and then just go on stage.
yeah.
I had like one rehearsal, and so I was playing the Rat King as one of the parts,
Yes, that's my favorite character in the Nutcracker, I must say.
the best character. Uh, but because I had learned the dance by watching it, I go on, I do my thing, I fight with the prince, and then there's a part of the dance he like chases me off stage. I'm supposed to go back and fight with him again. Well, I leave the stage and I'm like, I'm done, and I start taking off my costume,
Oh,
and I turn around and I look at the stage and everybody's doing stuff I've never seen before, and I'm like, huh, I don't. Oh God! So I like
oh,
ran on. I put the head on and ran on real quick and shook my sword and ran back off.
that's an actor's nightmare. Have you had actor nightmares where you don't know you're on stage and you don't know what's going on or things are happening and I don't know my lines.
Yes,
I have
so many
those
times.
dreams all the time. Things are falling off the stage and yeah, you can't
I
control
still
it.
have them. I
Yeah.
still have them. I guess it's where
Oh
our
yeah.
anxiety goes.
Speaking
Oh
of
gosh.
like, and in our own personal lives, speaking of performing, our rehearsal space or one of our go tos seems to have closed. Simple Studios.
Well, Jesus was just telling me that before we started, but I hadn't heard the news.
I hadn't seen an official announcement. This is just what's been passed around on Facebook.
Hmm. Well,
So
It's like we knew that that place was held together by string and hope.
I know, but it was our heartstrings that held it together.
It
That's
definitely
where
was.
we rehearsed there many times. I've spent probably a good chunk of my 30s there. So it's a very, looking back, it's like, oh, when I would go on dates with people who would never speak to me again. But when you go on a date and a guy will be like, so like, where do you hang out? Like, what do you like to do? And when I was like new to improv, be like, well, because where were we? Where you're hanging out at Simple Studios, you're hanging out at the time at, what was it? Mustang Sally's. This was
Yes,
before,
yes,
you know,
yeah.
like, and so you're like, I like to hang out at Midtown, like bridge and tunnel bars. Like, what? Like a
Yeah.
rehearsal studio. Not like, oh, I go to the Lower East Side and hang out here. Like, no, it's like, I do improv. Oh, so like Amy Poehler? Well, no, but I'm myself. Oh, do you know Amy Poehler? No. I'm in a level 3 class. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well, it's all gone
just to
now.
just it's all gone. I don't even know what comedy, live theater, any of it. I mean, the New York City Ballet, which is on the campus of Lincoln Center, I think they're going to be fine. It's a cultural institution of New York City. They billionaires and millionaires contribute to it. But whereas smaller theaters like improv theaters off Broadway, we'll see what happens, to those
Yeah,
places.
we will see.
Yeah.
Hmm.
hmm So what's going on with you?
Nothing. Just getting rejected from jobs that I should be
Oh,
getting interviews for. Today I got a series of 5 rejections, so that's
what?
nice. That always feels good.
I don't understand because you are qualified to do these things, and who I I don't get it. Like, what is are all these jobs that are available really just being filled in house, and they have to post them for appearances sake?
I literally don't know. I mean, you were with me when unemployment started for me almost a year
Yes.
ago, back in
Yes.
October, and I had had such a good track record of getting jobs. I don't know. All I keep thinking is there's something horribly wrong with my resume because this isn't even something to like brag about because I don't care about this day job. It's just that I did this very specific job for 10 years. So it's
Right.
like you said, I'm literally qualified for it. Like this week there was a listing for a job at Disney for their streaming service, and it was as if I had written the job posting myself. It was like these are the things I did every single day. So I apply, 1 day later rejected. So
What?
I'm just like I don't know. Like I don't
Yeah,
know.
that
All I know.
like whenever I see job qualifications or anything like that, I'm like, yes, I could do that. What? So I was watching. This is a political podcast. So yesterday I was watching the John Lewis funeral service, and one of his staffers was on, and she was saying how. Oh, she was saying John didn't care about resumes. He wanted to know who you were. Like, he wanted to meet you and your essence and your viability, or your eagerness to work. I'm like, I want that job. I could do that. This is how interviews should be. God damn it! Because like, who is a person on paper? All these people, and this is the thing: the job market. You have all these people who look perfect on paper. They get jobs, and then they don't show up. They flake out. They leave after a couple of months. I don't know what filter is happening, who these people are in HR. There's such a disconnect with actually getting to know people versus being placed at good places. Like if this job description that you're talking about is basically what you have been doing, why the hell weren't you brought in for a friggin' interview?
I literally don't know. I mean, first off, I think, is there something horrible on my resume that I just don't understand? Like something conceptual, like the dates don't match up, even though I've looked at the dates 50 times,
Right.
or my education is like wrong. It's like, because I do put that I have a BFA, because I'm not lying, because they could check it, right? Like,
Right.
do I switch it and just start lying and be like, I have a BSA in computer science? Like, I don't know, maybe, because maybe they'll never check, but I don't know if that's the thing. Or is it that, like you said, these jobs aren't real? That feels very weird to me, but maybe that's happening. Or, like, are there just so many people applying for jobs that people who have even more qualifications than I do are getting these jobs that are actually lower than,
Oh,
so I'm
maybe
being pushed
the
down the
people
ladder?
that that I guess that could be a possibility for a lot of things. Like, oh, I need something. This will do for now. But even then, they're not going to stay there forever, or they're probably going to end up leaving New York, or move on to something else. And even as far as education goes, you have the experience. And this is the thing: is someone if someone is, if this is their if like working in HR and placing people in the departments is like their first job, I guess education would be important because they recently have just graduated themselves. But if you have the experience, like you not having a master's in computer science or whatever it is that they think that's what we're looking for, people with, uh, I think the experience outweighs the education.
I think it would too. I mean, everyone I've ever talked to, for the most part, except for people who are like in high level sciences, have said that they learned their job on the job, no matter what their degree was. Bankers, PR
Right.
people, even all the majority of software developers I've worked with are self-taught. Like, that's a big thing in that world.
Yes.
So they very
Yeah.
specifically don't always look for education. Like, most of the people I worked with at Huffington Post did not have masters, but they were making. Maybe a lot of them did study computers as their bachelors, but very few of them went any further than a bachelor's, and most of them didn't even have a bachelor's. You know,
Oh,
but I
yeah,
just
yeah,
I honestly don't know. I don't know. It's so
yeah.
frustrating. I feel adrift on a sea of madness.
Well, that at least you know that that raft is has a lot of other people on it. We're all somewhat adrift. Any tips for? I'll be filing unemployment for the first time next week. Any tips?
No, just get in there and do it. I mean, if the server goes down, like, wait an hour, try it again.
Okay. All right.
Um, Filing for unemployment's very easy. You've done it before, I know, and
But it
um,
was. I mean, at this point, it was 12 years ago, so I don't know how much
it's
that's
exactly the
changed.
same. It is literally the same.
Okay.
Like, the screen is the
Okay.
same. When I logged in, I was like, "Oh, this is very familiar."
I remember
Uh,
this.
it's frustrating that people have been dealing with essentially an overloaded server because the state
Yeah.
won't allocate money to putting more server space. But once you get it, it's good. It's all
All
the
right.
same. It's all the same.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. I didn't watch John Lewis's funeral. Any good takeaways?
It seemed as a uh, as a history nerd, and like he was a piece of living history of the civil rights movement, and he just seemed like a really nice guy, and just really sweet, and wanting to ma- make sure. Oh, like he wrote an op-ed that was released yesterday, the New York Times, that would like to be released the day of his funeral. It's absolutely beautiful. Just being like, I am so proud of all the young people who are out there, for Black Lives Matter, and you've taken the mantle, and you young generation, like you guys are the ones who could, I hope that you are the ones to dismantle, racism, and you know, uh, keep the flame of democracy alive, like that kind of thing. It was very, very beautiful. And I think also history will look back on this and say, oh, that very interesting coincidence. But the day of his funeral, where he was so prominent in voting rights, and then you have like earlier that day, Trump tweeting, planting the seeds of delaying the election, and that all the mail-in ballots are going to be fraudulent, and so you have these like varying, uh, you have these two opposing factions of like free and fair elections, and like on it, like wanting autocratic rule, basically, of delaying. And we'll see how this all plays out. Right now, everyone's saying, oh, he can't do that. This is not going to happen. The elections are set in stone, the Constitution, January 20th. But he doesn't give a shit. He never did. So we'll see what happens. Those were
Yeah,
my
I
takeaways.
highly doubt anything would happen with it, essentially because it would require basically the backing of the military. I mean, you'd have to go into real like coup town to break the Constitution when it comes to this. And I just don't see the military supporting him. I mean, honestly, I think the majority of them are probably indifferent to him. So for them to take extraordinary measures to like siege the country seems
Well,
unlikely.
it seems right. Um, One thing that's actually, regardless of whatever he tweets, that could be an actual problem is a lot of the states have, if they receive absentee ballots after the election, even if they've been postmarked before, they're automatically invalidated. So in all the swing states, like except North Carolina, have this in effect. And with the post office, with the new postmaster general deliberately slowing down delivery of the mail, pickup of the mail, threatening to closed offices, when you have this happening, that could, is a more realistic outcome than Trump declaring an executive order that the elections could be
Right.
delayed because of coronavirus concerns. So it's, how do we make sure that people who are voting absentee get it right away and mail it off right away, so that there's no delay, and if there is a delay, there's still enough time for them to be counted at their board of elections office. So
Yeah.
fun
I mean, our
times.
election system has been a mess for
Oh
such a
yeah,
long time,
yeah.
and no one can get the power to fix it. I mean,
And
there's
when they
there's
do,
Democratic
like,
proposals, there's bipartisan proposals, there's independent proposals,
yeah,
there's bills that have moved forward. I mean, there's so many layers of what is wrong with our
right.
voting system.
And I think with John Lewis's funeral being yesterday, it really exemplifies that. Where like he was willing to put his body on the line, like he was willing to die for this. And I got emotional, being like, "Am I willing to die for this? For the right to vote?" Like that's something we all need to be asking ourselves with coronavirus, civil unrest, this nonsense of noise from Trump and this wannabe dictator BS that he does. It's like, this is our right. Like, do we want this? And that's something we all need to be thinking about. I just worry about the normalization of the conversation, right? Because you and I
Yeah.
can say he's full of crap, but Fox News is probably talking about it right now with like Stephen Miller on, or some nonsense, or you know, it can be it can filter through like a QAnon kind of video, which gets passed around to where average people are saying, I don't know, but maybe we should. Those votes, they go out to those undocumented immigrants. We don't know who's sending them back, who's telling, who's checking. That's what I worry about.
I mean, there's a
Where
thousand
it just
different
becomes,
ways there's a thousand different ways that our republic could turn into, you know, like an open plutocracy or an open oligarchy. Like we don't we have a democratic part of our government, but it's always so weird when everyone talks about it being a democracy as if it's pure. Like there's definitely a massive part of that is democratic, but like, as long as people are comfortable, it seems like they're always going to go along. And like we are such a plutocracy. I mean, it's just factual that billionaires keep expanding. We keep getting more billionaires and those billionaires keep getting more stuff. And like as that trend continues, I see there being less of an incentive for the ruling class to even keep bothering with these democratic norms. I mean, right now, if they tried to do a fast coup, there would probably be a revolution. But if they just let things keep eroding in this silent way, the way they have, the way that the Democratic Party keeps moving to the right, that the Republican Party keeps moving to cuckoo town, like, you know, these things that keep happening so slowly and over time, and even people, like the DNC, you know, they we didn't talk about this because I just didn't feel like bringing it up, but they had their votes this past week on the party platform, and they voted down legal marijuana. They voted down Medicare for all. They voted down getting corporate lobbyists out of the process. I mean, every single thing that was progressive, they voted down in a hard way. And the crazy thing about it is that platforms don't matter, they aren't binding. So for them, for the corporate Democrats to say, we aren't even going to give you a fake show of progressivism, shows you
It's
what the real DNC is.
but the DN, I it seems kind of like a non-issue to me. Like legalization of marijuana is something that's happening among the states, and it was going to happen. Is that the most important issue? No. People care about coronavirus, they care about the economy, even though legalization of marijuana could definitely boost the economy. But how do you do that during a pandemic? I don't know. Medicare for all, people want universal health care. People want more access to health care. I think ultra lefties have really put their teeth into the phrase of Medicare for all as a be all end all. And I think the majority of Americans want more access to healthcare. They want affordable healthcare. They want free healthcare. They want Medicare expansions and that kind of thing. If it's called Medicare for all or not, they don't care. It's like the people who got all pissed off about Obamacare, but as soon as the Republicans wanted to take away the Affordable Health Care Act, everybody freaked out because they liked it, even though they hated Obamacare, but they liked the Affordable Care Act. So it's a matter of whereas defund the police really alienates a lot of people, even though it's like, no, it's about reform and re-envisioning what that looks like. Medicare for all is something that's stuck where people are like, yeah, I want that, but whatever that looks like. So I don't think it's a rejection of progressive ideals, because Democrats are working on healthcare. How that looks isn't Medicare for all specifically as Sanders proposed. It may not, it might be. It's one of those things. Should we survive this election and go into next year, you can't wave a magic wand and get the healthcare you want. So it, it's
Well,
it's
first
a
of all,
it's
the
tough
name
it's a
doesn't
tough
matter. I
thing.
don't think any progressives care about the name. What they care about is universal access to healthcare, because as a progressive,
Right,
I say that it's immoral for us to let people have no healthcare. It's also immoral for us to be charging people inordinate amount of money that
right,
causes them to be bankrupt. So
right.
that's what people care about. And the polls of Democrats and general Americans in the Democratic Party, the polls right before this vote happened, 80% of the people polled who identified as Democrats wanted universal health care. And yet the party
That's
voted
exactly
in
what
a
I just
massive
said.
way against it.
No,
Well,
that's not what that's exactly what but conflating Medicare for all with universal health care, it can happen, but it's a specific certain way set by the Sanders camp, was voted down. I remain hopeful in that.
I mean, that's whatever. Yeah. So I don't know. That's the DNC for you. They won't even give lip service to progressive ideas. So
I
yeah.
disagree.
Well, I mean, it's what they did. They didn't even give lip service.
Well, I
I
mean,
mean,
it, they can't do anything right by certain progressives. So it's what can you do?
well, I mean, even if this issue was anything else, if this issue was like make the roads black, I mean, out of asphalt or something, and 80% of the party said they wanted it, but the actual people who run the party refused to do it, I don't see why that isn't an issue that makes people more upset with the DNC that shows the true colors of what those people are for. Do you know what I mean?
What?
I'm saying I'm saying let's pretend that
What? The
I'm saying
roads?
let's pretend that there's another issue like should hand sanitizer be in every school? And 80% of the people who are Democrats say
Oh, I
yes.
see what you're saying. So it's like, so you're saying no, but it has to be Purell hand sanitizer. And the DNC says, oh, but we have this other hand sanitizer. And you're saying, screw that. You are immoral. I
No,
want people to
that's not what
die.
I'm saying
That's,
you
but
because
that's,
you seem to think that there is some sort of specific like bill that they were voting on in this. Instead, they were just voting on
no,
the concept of we will put universal health care into this
but
platform.
but
It's
it was
not the
as
Sanders
Medicare for
created.
all. Right.
It's sure it's. I mean, it could have been called Medicare for all. The naming was not the issue that's at stake. It's the very idea that we are going to fight for this universality issue, and they refuse to do that. And the idea that they have proposals to move forward, I mean, Joe Biden won't even, Hillary Clinton offered to lower Social Security to age 50. That was one of the things that was in the platform as a way to get progressives because lowering Social Security also like helps people get to health care and have,
Of course.
a safer lifestyle. Joe Biden won't even do that. I mean, he offered to lower it 5 years from where it currently is. You know what I mean? Like he's giving less than even the Hillary Clinton campaign would give. So what I'm saying is the corporate Democrats who control the party don't care about progress at all. And in fact, work very hard to spit in the faces of
Well, this
the
spit in the
majority of their
faces of
voters.
like, no, they spit into the faces of like the people who show up at the table. Like, you know, who are actively trying to like dismantle the Democratic Party. So,
No, the people who are trying to make the Democratic Party stand for things that will help people. You know,
it's
that's what they want. They
I
want
mean,
there to
none of
be
it
a
will matter
party.
if we can't have a fucking election. So it, you know,
Sure, it's
so
true.
yeah, it's true. You know.
All right. Well,
Well,
any last thoughts? We're about at time.
oh, to circle back to what we had talked about in previous, like not last time, but last week about the ERA, and we were discussing like it's kind of in limbo because it's past its expiration. The bill got passed in the House in February to remove that extension. So now
Ah,
it's just languishing as everything else is in the Senate, controlled by
right.
Republicans. So everyone should contact their senators to, in addition to everything else, to bring this to a vote so that
Yeah,
we can get the ERA as a full amendment.
and then you'll be drafted.
Thank God. I can't wait.
That was one of the big arguments against it, from what I learned. is that women will be drafted, even though they were about to remove the draft. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, okay, Phyllis, okay, Phyllis
Yeah.
Schlafly.
Oh, yeah.
Great. All
Yep.
right. Well, until next time, I've been Zach Sommerfield,
And I've been Adrian Sexton.
and this was
Left
Left
and
and
correct.
Correct.